Hello everyone, welcome to the KMTRADERS channel. So we have a very different type of video on this channel. So this is essentially a whole market view outlook on our bias. So we're going to basically look at all of our pairs that we watch. So all of these here, and the ones in yellow are essentially the ones we'll do a separate video for, because we're looking to potentially get into them for next week. But we'll quickly just look over those. But I want to talk to you all about the blue ones that we've got marked up here, and essentially we're going to look at what our biases are currently and then what we're looking for in projection for the next few days or so. So main inspiration for this video is that a few people messaged me to explain exactly how the method works, and kind of give you guys some more context behind what exactly to look for in order to enter on this trade and the signals that I place essentially on this analysis channel. So I thought I'd start exactly with an example that we've already had. I've posted this on my Instagram page, so if you want to check that out, it's at KMTRADERS. The link is in the description. But essentially what I look for is a rejection or a level of support in zones that I draw. So I typically draw zones in areas that I believe that the market will retest. So they'll basically push up, come back as a pullback, then we'll typically find some sort of area of resistance or support. It just depends on our direction. So the first directional bias that we have here is that we basically predicted that we wanted to see some good buying opportunities, right? So we had the closure to the upside, we drew our zone in this area, and now we are essentially looking for that pullback. So what we have to find is, the first step is to be typically on the 4-hour time frame, because that's where we base our analysis on. So the first thing that we want to look at is rejection. So I keep talking about this, that wait for price to pull back and then wait for a form of rejection, and then we'll get that bullish momentum to the upside. So it's good to look at an example like this to understand exactly what to look out for. So what I mean by exhaustion or wick rejection is a candle like this. So we typically have price action in two forms. We have a body, so this is where price opens and closes. So this is the open, and effectively what this is showing is that price has pushed us all the way down to the downside within this 4-hour collection of data, and it closed below and it formed a red candle, so a bearish candle. Now if you notice that we have these sticks here, so bear in mind these sticks are here, but they actually show a lot more than what people kind of understand and disregard them for. So what this essentially means is price had opened from this level here, pushed all the way up just slightly a little bit, but price had pushed all the way back down here, and then within the 4-hour time frame it pushed all the way back up and closed here. So essentially what this is saying is that price has been able to fall really low, but has been pushed really fastly back up within this 4-hour time frame, and essentially that's sentiment. So when you match the level of support, so this is a support zone, if you find that we find a rejection like this, so this is what I call a rejection, essentially we've found support because people are buying from this point. So in order for us to execute on this, we then need to look for a level of a bullish candle. So a bullish candle is essentially the candle going the opposite way to the red one. So we have this candle here. It's not exactly a very good bullish candle. So this is where the patience lies and the fear of missing out. So FOMO. It's a very key point in trading and having that potential to have that patience really in trading. So this candle would not be classed as a bullish candle, and the typical reason is because if we actually look at again at the sentiment, that price opened in here, opened at this point, pushed lower very slightly, but pushed all the way higher. But if you actually look at, if I just move this very slightly, if you actually look at the wick, obviously we pushed really low, so essentially that's not a valid candle. So we move on to the next 4-hour, and if you actually look, we have another rejection candle, and then if you have a look again, the next 4-hour candle, we find a bullish candle. So this would be a very good position to get into here. Now it really depends upon your own risk to reward ratio of how you play this exactly. So you can actually place this if you're comfortable exactly here. It just really depends how aggressive you want to play, and if you want to place your stop loss below the zone for maximum safety, that the trade will have a breathing capacity to let the trade run, or you could place it way below the EMAs that we've got here. So the EMAs that we use are the 50 EMA and the 25 EMA. So the 50 EMA is the institutional EMAs that most banks use. The 25 EMA gives me more of a bias of exactly when the crossover is occurring, and we want to look for that when we get into a trade. So essentially we get into this point, and what we'll do is then look at the pullback and see if we are continuing to the upside. Now this is where we come for targets, and profit level is exactly where do we look. So what I typically like to do is have a nice to reward risk to reward ratio. So typically it depends how much you risk, but let's say you were risking 100 pips on this trade. I would go as little as 2 to 1, but let's just say we had a very small stop loss of, let's say, 30 pips. I would be looking for anything at a minimum of 3 to 1, but it really just depends upon your own preference and nature of what you're typically comfortable with trading, etc. So now there is some problem with this, is that your own comfortability. So you're going to have to adjust your lot sizes for your risk. So that's where most people tend to get caught out, that they use the same lot size all the time, and when they get a bigger loss, a bigger stop loss, sorry, you end up losing a lot more, and then you get disheartened and you end up killing your own account. So essentially that's all I'm looking for when I'm looking to get in on trades. So just with that as a quick bias, hopefully that kind of makes sense. And then this would obviously work in the opposite direction. So if we were to look for a short here, I would be looking for the push into this zone here with a wick rejection, so like this, but inversely up to the top, and then a big bearish candle, so like that but flipped over. So hopefully that kind of made sense, but if you do have any other questions, just feel free to message me. Best place to contact me is through my Instagram, so definitely go ahead and follow that, and drop me a message through on that platform. So hopefully that kind of makes sense of what to look out for. So I'm just going to step in now and talk about exactly all the different types of markets. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not focusing on the yellow ones because I'll do a proper video for this separately, like giving it 2 to 3 minutes. But I'm going to talk about the blue ones that I've marked and what I'll be looking for as the overall market condition. So what I can see here for GBP AUD, we had a very big choppy week here. Like if you actually assess the sentiment of the market, so what I mean by that is the price action, we can see it's very choppy here as opposed to the previous months of data here. So what we are realizing here is that this personally to me is a very choppy condition. So my first step of trading is this market really worth trading? And essentially the methodology works better in a trending market, and because we can't clearly assess where the trend is looking and where it's heading, I'm going to completely disregard this. But I've got a drawn zone here just in case we look for the momentum to switch the opposite way. So just to show you that if price essentially pulls all the way down here and pulls back into here, we could be looking at some shorts. So essentially this level is at 1.96291 to 1.96783. So effectively, if market pushes all the way down here, look for that pullback, and we could start be looking at a very bearish momentum there. So now moving on to GBP CAD, we have got some, obviously we got to look at the market through the sentiment. So we had a huge gap and on the opening. Eventually we filled this. So essentially we're coming down and we're looking like further potential to continue it further down really, but essentially what I'll be looking for is if we can close above this level here. So I've just drawn this in now. It's at 1.69086 to 1.69680. So if we are able to push and close above here, could be looking at a nice buying opportunity in this front. So also something to notice as well is if you understand about patterns, head and shoulders. So this is your left shoulder, the head, and then if we get a pull up to this point, we'll get that right shoulder, and could be looking at a very good buy for a long term there. Moving on to gold and my outlook. So very constricted in this area really right now, still kind of choppy, moving sideways. Essentially I'm looking at these areas here and wait for that pull to the upside. So this is at 1550 to 1575. Essentially we want to see if we close above here, that pullback, and if we get a big push to the upside. However, we still have our bottom zone here, so this is at 1450 to 1469. If we get that closure to the downside, we could be looking at that pullback and effectively going further lower than we've expected. So just a very quick observation there with gold. Moving on to Euro USD. So we've got that huge push to the downside, and something I want to mention here is if you actually take this daily trend into consideration, notice how price is instantly steep and it's moving very aggressively against the trend line. So we've almost can do this sort of formation here. We can also draw another trend line within this intermediate trend line, and some traders do this and some people don't, but I think it's a good way to look at momentum within the actual trend line, because sometimes what we'll find is when the market pushes extremely fast in one direction, it is looking for a big pullback to at least test the outer trend line here. So I've drawn a zone here of potential opportunities to buy. That's if we do cross this. So this is at 1.07975 to 1.08474, and effectively what I want to see is that big push to the upside, and we could be looking to test this trend line here. If we manage to get this trend line to close above, we'd have a very nice trade to get in on this. So potentially you could be looking at making this a video if we do close above here in the up and coming days next week. Don't worry, I will keep putting these videos out just to give an overall bias of our opinion. So but for now, as it stands, we are still bearish, so we just have to exactly wait for the good opportunity to buy. But just wanted to mention about the intermediate of lines. So we could draw an outer line and an inner line, and it's a good tool to understand, and the fact that we are pushing aggressively downwards as opposed to sticking with our trend line, it means that we are waiting for a pullback. So I do believe that we've got a pending pullback for Euro USD. Moving on to Aussie dollar USD. So we are looking at a nice pullback right now. Like we've talked about before with Euro USD, we've got, if we were to draw here, a nice intermediate line. So this is what I mean, where prices deviating away from the outer trend line is very steep, and we are looking for a pullback here. So as you know, I'm a very technical analysis guy. That's all I base my analysis on. I do take fundamentals into consideration, but it's purely predominantly on the technicals. So so if you just wanted to focus on the technicals, this would be a great video to continue watching. Sorry, but yeah, anyway, so what I've focused here is a zone on this rejection candle here. So there's a nice rejection here. So if we are able to close above here, then we could be looking at some bullish sentiment, and it goes the same with the other US dollar to other pairs. And if you notice that all of the current pairs are kind of pulling backwards, and so you know it's potentially looking at the pullback. So if essentially we are able to push and pull back into this area here, we could be looking at a nice buying opportunity. Essentially this is at 0.59552 to 0.60342. So just something just to consider. But for the time being, as I do say, this is currently still in a bearish momentum. So yeah, so just essentially just wait for market to get into that area again. Moving on to New Zealand dollar, US dollar. We're still in a bearish market here. So current bias is towards the downside. However, if we are looking at a potential buy, I'll be looking to buy in this region here. So 0.59147 to 0.59687. Essentially that push to the upside, closure to the downside, and that push it up. And again, we can see the nice formation of another aggressive trend line being formed here. So it's important to kind of take these rules and apply it, and see how they work in different ways. Like this doesn't exactly work too well because it's going just way above it, but it still works in the sense that we can see that huge pressure to the downside. If you actually look at the sentiment again, it's just from the 17th of March to the 19th, it's just one big straight downwards move. So there is a pullback, and obviously there is a very aggressive nature here. So we are expecting a pullback, and potentially we could find another an opportunity to sell in this region. But as of now, like I said, it is in a bearish nature. But it's only until we get above this zone that we start to talk about looking for bullish pressure. So moving on to Euro USD, we're in a very big bullish momentum right now, as we can see the last few days, but we've also been hit very sharply here. So this is where the sentiment comes in. I'm now looking at potential shorts, but as of current condition right now, we are in a bullish momentum. I'm only going to consider looking for shorts if we consider breaking below this level here. So if we push way below here and pull back and essentially move aggressively lower. So this is at 1.78376 to 1.79840, and essentially we just have to wait for this. So if you haven't already kind of noticed that all these pairs that I'm currently talking about, they're on presumption as of now. They're not looking to move in that direction. I'm talking about if market gets to this point, that's when we should be considering moving into the buy or the short sell. So but as I say, the market is currently in one condition, and I'm looking for potential other opinions about it. So that's just want to quickly make sure you understand that. So Canadian dollar, Japanese yen, as we can see, we've got a nice downtrend, but we're currently peeping out. I'm not looking for an aggressive buy here. I'm just waiting for the correct time to buy. So I'm looking in this region up here. As of now, it's still bearish in my opinion, but I'm just waiting for a bit more of an aggressive push. That's purely because of this gap that we've got here. I do like to see a nice full strong closure completely covering this, so at least above 78432 at least as a minimum. But essentially, if we do look for the buy, I need to wait for that 4-hour closure to the upside before that pullback and then that push to the upside. And in this region that I'm looking at is 78.177 to 78.749. So again, we need to wait on the market condition for that to occur. Euro, Japanese yen, we can start to see some bullish pressure in all the yens actually, just to quickly mention. And again, as we talked about with GA, we've got a similar type of market condition here with the Euro, Japanese yen. It's very hard to understand exactly what's happening here. Very choppy. If we actually just take a look at this, what we can see here on this page, and then if we scroll back, like look how simple this looks now as opposed to that. So that. What would you rather trade? Would you trade this or that? So personally, I would trade this, and this is just not an ideal pair to look at. So you don't have to trade every single pair. That's something that I don't understand. People don't understand that you don't have to trade every single pair. Like it's not it's not essential. Like, it's better to pick a very good trade that you're comfortable with, as opposed to something that you're, you completely don't have any interest in, or you can't see the bigger picture here. So this is very violent, very choppy. So what we typically do is just leave this and wait for it to die down. There'll be a better opportunity in this pair. But like I said, move on to another pair and we can see what we can look into further. So the next pair we're looking at New Zealand Japanese yen, and as we said, that we are starting to see some pushes into the Japanese yen. As of now, we're still in a nice downtrend, not too aggressive, staying intact with our daily downtrend. So we're still currently bearish here until we make a new pressure low here. But if we do manage to push up further, I would be looking to consider a buy upon here. So a nice pullback up here and essentially like that. Essentially looking at 66.427 and 66.776. That's exactly where we're looking at. But yeah, I think we have a very big move for that in order to get to that point. Yeah, about 300 pips. So not exactly anytime soon, maybe in a far distance, but this is the purpose of this video, just to give you a nice heads up in advance of potential where we could be looking at. And moving on, Aussie dollar, Japanese yen. I think I actually did post a video on this actually. I think previously yesterday. Yeah. Yeah, I did actually. Yeah. So essentially, what I'm looking for here, then, just to refresh you guys, is the push to the upside. So we did get an opportunity to push to the upside here, but we have not exactly got that sentiment that we are looking for. We need to wait for a nice bullish candle again, and a rejection. And sorry, we need to wait for a push to the upside, followed by a rejection candle, followed by a bullish momentum candle. So we got that closure to the upside, which is step one. Step two was waiting for a rejection candle, a form like this. So this was a nice one here, but the second candle that we ended on the last week was not buying potential. So hence, you didn't need to take a trade here, and you would have lost out if you did take an aggressive buy. So that's why I have to say and stress the importance of making sure you completely understand about what the signal looks like. So if you don't know and you still don't quite understand, just make sure you message me on my Instagram. It's the best place of contact, and it's the link is in the description, but it's at KMTRADERS on Insta. So yeah, that's essentially what I'm looking at for this pair. So if you want to quickly check back at that video, it's on my page, on my channel somewhere. And finally, for this last video, is US dollar CHF. So with the Swiss dollar, with the US dollar and the Swiss franc, I'm looking to see if we can potentially see some weakness here. We are still looking at bullish pressure, so buys are still favored here, but I'm looking at another pattern here, a nice double top, and I'm looking for potential short. So if we do find some potential shorting opportunities, it will be in this region here that I've got drawn. So let's get rid of this one. So actually, I'll color this one in red, and essentially this is the place of opportunity where I'm looking to short. That's only if we cross down below in the 4-hour time frame, and this is at 0.97620 to 0.97943, and essentially same thing again. We look for that closure above and that wick rejection following by that bearish pressure. So like again, we see in the other pairs that we looked at, is we've had that huge push to the upside, and then we've had that huge steep price action move, and it's not like there's any difference here, but we can see that we're in a very bullish pressure and we are waiting for that pullback. So it could be quite good to look at a nice selling opportunity, as we are looking at a nice pullback opportunity as well. So I think that should be all on the pairs, and we've also got the yellow ones that we want to discuss. So we'll actually do a separate video for each one of those for tomorrow. But hopefully this video was of benefit to yourselves. A nice 25-minute video, gives you something to look at. Hopefully if you're in quarantine, this will be a nice learning tool, and you can put these charts and the zones into your own analysis and see if you can stay patient enough to get in on these trades. So essentially that will be all from this video. If you haven't done so already, make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. And also another final thing is to follow me on Instagram, and that's only if you have any questions, but if you want to follow my other stuff for updates, etc., and I post a lot of different stuff on there. So effectively that will be all from us. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.